Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. I'll speak live with the Homeland Security Secretary, Jay Johnson, fresh off a classified briefing to lawmakers in just a few minutes. But first, an update on the war on terror turns into a war over words. Today, President Obama launched a fiery response to Republicans, and specifically Donald Trump, over the president's refusal to use the term radical Islamic terrorism to define the attacks being launched by terrorists like the one who killed 49 people in Orlando early Sunday morning. President Obama saying using the words would do nothing to stop the acts. This as we learn the terrorist plans to attack in Florida were no secret and were much more detailed. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Correspondent Peter Ducey is in Orlando, where we're learning frightening new details about that shooting. But we begin with correspondent Rich Edson, who has more on the president's pushback over defining motives. Good evening, Rich.
Good evening, Brett. And we expected a report on the status of the FBI investigation into the Orlando killer and on the U.S.-led coalition against ISIS. We got that and much more. A national security update turned fierce condemnation of Republicans.
We hear language that singles out immigrants and suggests entire religious communities are complicit in violence. Do Republican officials actually agree with this?
3 days after the Orlando terrorist attack, 3 straight days President Obama has addressed the nation on camera. Today's installment followed a meeting with his National Security Council. After delivering a battlefield update of airstrike totals and troop movements, the president launched into a defense of his opposition to the phrase radical Islamic terrorism and his rhetorical strategy.
What exactly would using this label accomplish? What exactly would it change? Would it make ISIL less committed? Not once has an advisor of mine said, man, if we really use that phrase, we're going to turn this whole thing around.
The president then scolded his opponents, primarily Donald Trump, claiming their rhetoric is inspiring extremism among Muslims.
It will make us less safe, fueling ISIL's notion that the West hates Muslims, making young Muslims in this country and around the world feel like no matter what they do, they're going to be under suspicion and under attack. We've seen our government mistreat our fellow citizens. And it has been a shameful part of our history.
Trump's response? The president, quote, claims to know our enemy, and yet he continues to prioritize our enemy over our allies. And for that matter, the American people. When I am president, it will always be America first. Some Republicans, like House Speaker Paul Ryan, continue to oppose Trump's call to halt Muslim immigration to the United States.
I think the smarter way to go in all respects is to have a security test and not a religious test. This is a threat that simply must be defeated. And right now the president doesn't have a plan to get the job done.
The White House says the president will travel Thursday to Orlando to pay respects to the victims' families. Brett?
Rich Edson, live on the North Lawn. Rich, thank you. So are the reports true, Rich, that the White House today snubbed a top Saudi official, the Saudi defense minister, I guess, a big player in the kingdom?
Well, there's some confusion over that, Brett, because the Saudi media is saying that the meeting will happen. However, the White House has no such meeting on its public schedule and will only say that the president's schedule is in flux because of the Orlando terrorist attack. Of course, Brett, the administration and Saudi Arabia have had a relationship of cooperation and of controversy over the last few years.
Yes, Rich, thank you. We'll follow that.